What's up guys, I'm Jared from Avalanche Reviews, and you probably know what Talking Points is all about by now. Every once in a while, some issue in gaming gets my jimmies all rustled, and I proceed to try my best at both understanding that issue and debunking it. Well, today I think we're going to have to break with tradition just a little bit. I still want to touch on something that broadly affects gaming, but instead of tackling every argument against my stance that I can find, I figured we should just go straight to the source. This is Josh Sargent, an editor over at Crack.com, and he has a big problem with violence in games, so let's hear what he has to say. Oh, and before we start, just so you guys know, this isn't going to be a running theme here. I'm not a response video channel, and that's not the direction I want to take it in, but for now this format fits my purposes, so take it away, Josh.
Hey America, I'm Crack Senior Editor Josh Sargent, and I'm here to talk about video games, specifically to say that we let them down, guys. They were supposed to be the future. Interactive storytelling was supposed to surpass movies as the new art form of a new generation.
Well, 18 seconds in, and I'm already not liking where this is headed. First off, if we're talking raw numbers and objective facts, gaming as an industry has surpassed cinema almost 3 times over. But since I know he's talking about this from an artistic perspective, here's a bombshell. I do think gaming has surpassed cinema as an art form. The interactive nature of gaming alone helps build stronger emotional ties to characters, and with story-heavy games like The Last of Us and Metal Gear Solid, I'd say games have figured out how to tell a good story, but I could spend an entire video on this topic alone, so let's get back on track.
But we won't let it. We're holding them back because you can't admit that the level of violence in video games is smearing banana paste on your chest and calling yourself the king of France insane.
Congratulations, people. We've made it almost 30 seconds, and Josh has already contradicted himself. On one hand, we have a guy who yearns for games to follow in the footsteps of cinema, and on the other hand, we have that same guy decrying the violence in the medium. Well, I have some bad news for you. From 1985 to 2013, 94% of top-grossing films were either wholly violent or included scenes of violence. You can't have it both ways, Josh. Either gaming is held to the same standards as cinema, or it isn't.
Look, game bros and game ladies, I don't think violence in video games is a bad thing. I just think it's weird that it's the only thing. 4 of the 5 best-selling games of 2015 are just about killing people. And when I say about, I mean the reason we play these games is so we can pretend to kill people. With guns, specifically.
Now, I can't exactly refute this. I mean, those are indeed the top games of 2015, and 4 out of 5 are violent. But you have to prove the inclusion of violence is a bad thing on its own. You can't start an argument on the grounds of, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, and work your way back from that. And as a side note, fuck this guy for telling me how and why I play games. Now maybe he misspoke or didn't mean that, but plenty of us play violent video games for other reasons than a deep-rooted urge to kill people. Making a claim like that is poorly worded at best and downright presumptuous and insulting at worst.
Because we don't want any innovation getting between us and scratching our murder itch. One Twitter user pointed out that at the 2016 E3 Gaming Expo, 89% of the games shown were about solving problems with violent retribution. And people lost their shit at him just for saying that. Why? He's literally doing math. That's gaming.
Nope, math is absolutely not gaming. But his earlier point is exactly why I put this video together. See, Josh here isn't the only person in games media that feels this way. He's backed on all sides by an industry that's sprung up around ideas of elitism and a total disgust for their audience. If games media is to be believed, we're mostly basement-dwelling neckbeards who have no business enjoying games that speak to our own personal tastes. And that's when they're not actively spinning the narrative that we're dead. Violence in video games is 100% okay, as long as it doesn't lead to real-life violence. So let's do a real quick check on that issue, and nope, still no correlation between the two.
If anybody watching isn't a games folk, and if so, rude, I want to point out that games can do a lot of stuff that isn't murder. There's The Sims, there's Minecraft, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. But we gamers still choose to spend our gaming dollar almost exclusively on recreations of the most f***ed up we see in the news.
Yep, that's true, and now all you have to do is produce just a little bit of evidence that proves that this is a bad thing.
Now look, I enjoy casual violence as much as I enjoy cigarettes or toilet hooch, but of course it's weird. When we pretend it doesn't look weird, that just makes us look more weird. Compare these games to the top 5 highest grossing movies of 2015. It's still mostly violence, but at least it's different kinds of violence. We have laser sword fights, dinosaur fights, car and gun fights, superhero fights, and I didn't see Minions, but I assume there's some graphic torture or something.
Oh, for Christ's sake, there's no way you're this thick. Your own list of top games in 2015 represents everything you just mentioned, minus the dinosaur fights, and even that can be remedied with a quick Steam search.
I get it though. This is a sensitive topic for a lot of people because we remember a time when people were trying to make video games not a thing anymore. In the 90s, there was serious discussion about whether or not games were causing all the problems in the world and needed to be banned forever. Or at least it seemed that way to us because we were kids and didn't realize that these kinds of controversies happen like once a decade and always end up being as ephemeral and meaningless as, say, Piers Morgan.
And this has to be the saddest moment in the video by far. Josh is so close to self-realization, but just can't see the parallels between the government should control whether or not games are violent based on unwritten laws, and entitled self-righteous hipsters should control whether or not games are violent based on a subjective definition of the word art. God, please, you're right there. You're so close, Josh.
But today, we spend $25 billion a year on video games. $25 billion, that's 4 times more than we spend on guns, and look at how powerful the gun industry is.
Not exactly what I'd call an apt comparison, since the games industry has almost no lobbyists, but kudos for working an anti-gun stance into this argument about as gracefully as a fucking car crash.
We're an important part of the economy now, so at the risk of sounding cynical, even if scientists wearing lab coats and speaking in European accents conclusively proved that video games caused real-world violence, they probably still wouldn't take them away, because gaming is expensive enough now to be a rich people hobby, and rich people hobbies can be literally anything. We're safe. Who cares?
I think he's conflating the amount of money that the industry makes with the amount of money gamers have, which is insane. I mean, almost every household in America has a game console in it, but the rich people required for this to be a rich people hobby fluctuates between 1 and 2% of the country's population. Not sure where you're getting your info from, Josh, but I would find a new source if I were you.
Let's just go full punk rock and admit that gaming is super f***ed. The anger thing probably isn't a coincidence. Already, I know that some of you are questioning whether I'm a true gamesman. So let me be clear here and say that my gamer cred is un-f***ing impeachable. When I learned the true meaning of loyalty and friendship, it wasn't because some friends and I discovered a dead body in the woods. It was from Minx in Baldur's Gate and his unwavering devotion to Boo the miniature giant space hamster. So step up. And yet, despite this obvious pedigree, I still don't like to call myself a gamer.
Well, I think we all knew this was coming. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of formula out there that predicts exactly how long a scrawny douche can talk about games before disassociating himself with other gamers. Right about now, I assume he's gearing up for a Gamergate reference.
Because that word seems less associated with video games and more associated with being a dick on the internet. In fact, Google literally autocompletes the word gamer to Gamergate, which was an internet harassment campaign with ties to white supremacy groups.
Called it.
So just searching for my hobby on the internet puts me 3 clicks away from being on yet another government watch list.
Listen, I know he's including comedy to add a little spice to this opinion piece, but this stuff really isn't funny to me.
I can also tell you anecdotally that writing about video games attracts way more internet hate than writing about anything else. Compare the comments under a "this movie is sexist" article to the "this video game is sexist" article on literally any website, and you'll see the difference. Also, everybody knows this, even Reddit.
Well, what exactly did you expect? I mean, when you lie about something that can be fact-checked and verified on the internet, you get called out for it. That's just the way it works.
At a certain point, that's not a coincidence. And that certain point was 6 years ago, and people started advertising to us using our inability to control our temper as their gimmick. Anyway, games. Mostly about killing. Gamers. Mostly mad all the time. Maybe a link. Not a crazy idea.
Oh, don't mind me. I'll just be sifting through the actual evidence that disproves your claim. And you know what? Maybe while I'm at it, I'll watch this commercial that proves all car drivers are violent.
So here's our opportunity to be better than most professional sports and tackle an obvious problem head on before anybody gets hurt. We don't actually care about story. I've read hundreds, probably, of articles about why video game stories are so bad. Why, the articles ask. Why are they so bad? I'll tell you. It's because we gamers, you and me, don't give a f***. It's not why we play, and it never has been, and it never will be. The stories don't matter to us.
You know, I've been trying my absolute best to keep my anger in check throughout this whole video, and I even managed not to rant and rave when he assumed to know the reason why we all play video games, but I think I've officially hit my limit. Hey Josh, why don't you kiss my fucking ass? My game collection consists mostly of heavily story-driven RPGs, and I play most games specifically for their stories. And if sales numbers are to be believed, I'm not the only one. We've got Skyrim, 20 million copies sold, Metal Gear Solid 5, 6 million, The Witcher 3, 9 million, Hell, Final Fantasy 15 hit 5 million in one day. You have absolutely no proof to back up that ridiculous claim, and the worst part about the situation is, I honestly believe you think that. I think your douchebag hipster friends in games media have tricked you into believing that your taste alone dictates what matters to us poor gaming peasants, and that answering for your claims is beneath you. Well, fuck you, Josh Sargent. You don't speak for me or anyone I've ever met. But at the very least, we can all take solace in the fact that even your viewers think you've gone insane. Which is exactly where I'm going to stop here. Trust me guys, it doesn't get any more intelligent and well thought out further on. But in the interest of fairness, I am going to be linking the original video in the description, so you guys go ahead and check that out on your own if you're intent on sitting through 8 minutes of insanity. As for my official stance on the subject, well, I'm willing to discuss it. I try not to have a hardline position on really anything, and if you guys can make a better argument than this idiot, feel free to jump in the comment section. While I am against the idea that pretend violence is bad inherently, I am willing to listen to opposing ideas. As for you guys, well, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next episode of Talking Points. Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like button if you want to see this channel grow, and if you like what you saw here, click subscribe and maybe check out my other Talking Points videos.